what you've decided. This is the compass for my life. That I will not lean to my own understanding, that I will allow the truth of God, the opinion of God to be the directive of my life. There is no hope of standing firm against the schemes of the enemy unless you and I have decided to be women girded in truth. Because you need to understand that even if you don't believe every single thing that the Word of God declares to be true about you, you need to know that even if we don't believe it, we have an enemy who knows everything God has declared. He knows that you have already been forgiven. If you want any chance of standing firm against this enemy who is scheming against you, you better pray. You got to be a woman of prayer. It can't be something that you do once a week on Sunday. I hope that you go to a church where, like Gateway, you have leaders like that who will stand and pray over you. But if the only time you pray is once a week at church, you're going to be in trouble. If the only time you pray is once a year because the Pink Conference, it's time again. If this is the only time that you are on your knees going to war for your family and for your own peace of mind and for your own destiny that the Lord has for you, the enemy knows he's going to run roughshod over you. If Sunday is all that God gets, Monday through Saturday is at the enemy's disposal. And so you've got to decide, I've got to decide that we will not neglect prayer. Because if I were your enemy, one of the main things I would want to do is devalue the significance of some of the most important and powerful weapons that I know you had in your arsenal. One of them is worship. I would want to devalue worship. I would want you to say to the end of the day when you really don't have any time or energy left, I would want prayer to be the last thing on your to-do list so that you'll nestle yourself in bed at the end of the night hoping to spend some time with God, but really you can barely keep your eyes open because you just saved the last bits of energy in your day for prayer. That's what I want if I were your enemy. But no, I wouldn't want you to have a war room. I wouldn't want you to have strategies. I wouldn't want you to have intentional prayer. I wouldn't want you to have promises of God that are significant to the areas of our life where we see things of the promises of God. I've heard before. They had heard good teaching before from the Jewish leaders of the day, but they ain't never heard nothing like this before. And so everywhere Jesus showed up, the crowd came. And they brought with them their ailments and their needs. They brought with them the discouraged and the downtrodden. They brought with them their health issues and their financial issues. And they were trying to get as close as they possibly could to Jesus. They wanted to be like the woman with the issue of blood. You remember, who forced her way through a crowded group of people. She wanted to get close enough so that she could just. I believe in the sovereignty of God. God is sovereign. Sovereignty means that our God stood before time. That is pre-Genesis 1:1. The only reason there is a Genesis 1:1, let there be light, let there be such and such, the only reason there is one is because God already exists. I believe in the sovereignty of God. God is sovereign. Sovereignty means that our God stood before time. That is pre-Genesis 1:1. The only reason there is a Genesis 1:1, let there be light, let there be such and such, the only reason there is one is because God already Because it is amazing how your countenance changes when you really understand what the enemy thinks about you. It occurs to me that in a group this size, very many of us are facing our own battles. And when we look at them, our tendency is to get insecure when we're facing that difficulty in our marriage or in our finances or in our ministry or in our organizations in which we're involved or whatever it is that you may be facing in your life. It is our tendency to look at it and hang our head in discouragement because we feel overwhelmed just looking at it. But when you really understand what the enemy thinks about you, it changes the way you face your battles. You need to know it's not in the heavens, it's amazing how your countenance changes when you really